Hello, Hornets. Welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at the derivative of inverse trig functions. We're going to start off by taking a look at the derivative for the arccosine of x. Now, the way you want to do these is you want to start off by taking y equal to the arccosine of x. Now, this is because we're going to end up having to use a reference triangle to do this. We're going to start off by just moving the cosine to the other side. That gets rid of the arc. You'll notice our ratio, x over 1. This is going to be important to us in just a moment. So here we go. We're going to take our derivative. Now this is going to require the chain rule because we're taking the derivative of the cosine in terms of x, but we have a y. So this is going to give us negative sine of y dy dx equaling 1. And therefore, dy dx is equal to 1 over, we're going to move the negative to the top, sine of y. But what is the sine of y? That is the question. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the reference triangle right here. We're going to put our y angle in. We're going to be looking at the cosine. That was what was given to us. And the cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. That means that this side has to be c squared minus a squared, or 1 minus x squared. So what is the sine of y? Well, the sine of y has to be the ratio, the opposite side, 1 minus x squared to the square root, divided by the hypotenuse. Now, if we put this in, dy dx turns out to equal the negative 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared. And that is our answer. Now, if we use a u value, so if I were looking at trying to find the derivative d dx for the arc cosine of u, the only difference that's going to happen here is when we let our y equal the arc cosine, and then the cosine of y equaling u. Here we no longer get an x or dx dx when we take our derivative. So we get this negative sine y dy dx times du dx or u prime. Once we get this, we then divide. Dy dx has to equal the u prime over, we're going to make it a negative sine of y, and then we finish with dy dx is equal to negative u prime over the square root of 1 minus u squared. Now keep in mind that our reference triangle with our y value here and our u divided by 1 from the cosine of y gives us the adjacent over the hypotenuse with the square root being 1 minus u squared, so that the sine of y is the square root of 1 minus u squared over 1, which then goes right in place there, and we finish our problem. So regardless of whether we are working with the arc cosine of x or the arc cosine of u, we get almost the exact same formula. Instead of having a 1 because we had the derivative of x, we now have a u prime because we're looking at the derivative of u. Thank you very much. We'll be taking a look at the arcsine next. Be well, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Be well.